The Coaching Hour with Witumelo Tolakai
on Zoe Live Radio. www.zoeliveradio.co.za.
Good evening. Welcome to the Coaching Hour. I'm your host, Khensani Chauke. It's Tuesday night, the date night with me. We all know that every Tuesday night we come to the Coaching Hour and learn. So tonight we are going to talk about making sense of the overwhelmed. What is overwhelming you in your life? What are those occasions and events that has overwhelmed your life at the moment or in the past? So today I have a special guest. We're going to talk about a lot of things, and go call your friends, call your family, share the feed, and grab yourself a cup of coffee. Come with a pen and a paper, come and take notes, and let us come together so that we can learn from our special guest tonight. So our special guest tonight is Lois Trichat, and she is the best-selling author, a motivational speaker, a disability advocate. She's a wife, she's a coach, a blogger, a podcaster, and sometimes rock music. I was so surprised to hear that she has done rock music. Can you believe it, guys? So she will tell us all about that. And one more thing, she is totally blind. Can you believe it? So, yeah, I was overwhelmed after reading her profile. So tonight I want her to help me in overcoming the overwhelm that she gave me the other day. Coach Louis, welcome to the show. How are you? Good evening to you.
Hi there, Khensani. Khensani, it is so good to be with you this evening. Thank you so much. I'm excited to be here with you and chatting to you today. It's really good to be here.
Thank you so much for coming through. I really appreciate your time. And how is Cape Town?
Cape Town is beautiful as ever. I think, it's a little bit cooler here now than it was, but not as chilly as you are in Gauteng. So it's still lovely at this time of year.
Yeah. Oh, but you know what? One thing I know about Cape Town is you will get 4 seasons in one day. Like you in the morning, it will be sunny. In the afternoon, it's rainy. You will get all those kind of seasons that we have over the year in one day in Cape Town. That's what I know about Cape Town. So I still need to come back again and visit and experience the warmth and the sunny weathers that you guys sometimes have. But in my experience, it was just tough luck for me. But Cape Town, it's a very beautiful place. I love it. Well, so guys, if
next time you come down here, we'll try to organize some warm weather for you.
Please do. I will appreciate that. So guys, if you love the feed, share the feed and subscribe to our YouTube channel and like. Coach Louis, kindly introduce yourself.
As you said, my name is Lois. I am a coach, I am a speaker, a blogger, a podcaster, as you said, a sometime rock musician. I don't get to play much music because life is very busy. And I am also a disability advocate, and most of that is because I am blind myself. I became blind at the age of 21. So when I was at school, when I was started at university, I was sighted like most other people. And then due to my diabetes, I had problems with my eyesight. And after 15 months of treatment, the doctors told me that there was nothing more they could do to save my sight and that I would be blind for the rest of my life. And that was a time of a lot of adjustment, a lot of relearning ways of doing things. And it was incredibly overwhelming because everything in my life changed. I had to learn new ways of doing absolutely everything because now I didn't have my eyesight. And I think working through that process taught me a lot of skills and allowed me the gift of learning how to deal with overwhelm. And most of us these days are pulled in so many different directions, and we've got our work roles, our family roles, we are in society and community, in just everywhere, and there's social media, there's different things demanding our time, and we do feel overwhelmed. And I think that my experience of learning to adjust to losing my sight helped teach me some techniques that as a coach, I now use to help other people to work through the overwhelm that they face in their life. And I specifically focus in a number of areas, specifically in helping professional speakers who are wanting to begin developing a speaking business. I help them to start putting the building blocks in place so they can start building their business. I also help people who are wanting to write a book, primarily nonfiction, because that's where my expertise is, and help them to break down the process of how do they go about, because writing a book is such a big task.
It is.
And it's a frighteningly big task. And people go, I can't do that. I don't know how to. So I try to break it down into much smaller, actionable items. And that makes that overwhelming task a lot easier to deal with. And then the third area that I work in, and this is one that is very close to my heart, is to help other persons with disabilities to adjust to a recent diagnosis of disability, or people who have lived with a disability for some time to explore new opportunities and to start moving beyond what they had previously thought was possible. So that's a little bit about me, and overall my purpose in life is to help people achieve more than they dreamed possible.
Wow. Yeah, what an overwhelming story, Coach. And just tell me something. At that moment when the doctor said to you that you won't be able to see for the rest of your life, how does that make you feel? My first response was that I wanted to pick something up and throw it and break it, because I felt that was what had just been done to my life. But my way of being has always been to look for solutions, look for ways forward. I think it's always been part of my personality. And it was very soon afterwards, probably an hour and a half, that I was sitting there on the side of the bed in the hospital, staring out into space and just thinking, so what now? And everybody's journey of dealing with a life-changing experience like this is different. Everyone's experience is different. The adjustment takes so many different forms. But I always thought that it was just, you pick yourself up, you dust yourself off, and you go forwards, because that's what I did. But that's not a common experience. And there are a number of different factors that meant that I was able to do that, to just, okay, now what? It's not normal. A lot of people, it takes some people years to reach that point of acceptance. Absolutely.
But, yeah, and that's okay, because the journey takes as long as it needs to.
Sure. And I believe after that, a lot has changed in your life.
Totally.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. Learning new things, learning everything. Like it was, totally changed. I can believe that. And what motivated you to become a coach?
I hadn't ever really considered coaching as a full-time profession. Mm-hmm. But I realized in a lot of the work that I was doing in the Toastmasters organization, mentoring people, coaching people, helping them learn skills. And one of my colleagues through Toastmasters began learning coaching. He began a degree in coaching. Mm. And he actually mentioned to my husband and myself that would it be something that we might be interested in. And it was such an adventure to learn different ways of working with people and guiding them and supporting them in their journeys to answer their own questions in their life. Because for me, coaching is not about me, the coach, telling you how you need to behave. It's about me as a coach helping you to unravel and unpack the solutions that you already know that you have. And that for me is such a precious gift, to be able to see someone transforming their own lives.
That's so true. That's so true. And I've also seen that you have written 6 books. So I want to find out what inspired you to start the first one. Then you can take us through until the 6th one.
Okay, I'll try and keep it a short story. When I first started learning to use a computer, so as a blind person, I use a computer with a software app on it that talks to me. So it takes the text on the screen and it speaks to me. And the teacher who was teaching me to use the software said the best way to learn is to use the computer. And I didn't want to just type nonsense, or I started creating. I wrote song lyrics, I wrote poems, I wrote short stories. And amongst those short stories were 4 stories about a blind mouse who was exploring the world around her using her other senses. And a lot of those stories were my mind trying to unpack and to make sense of the experiences that I was learning as a newly blind person. And those books, after many years of sitting on a laptop somewhere, became the first 4 books that I published, which are 4 illustrated children's books called The Adventures of Missy Mouse. And therefore, children between the ages of 3 and 9. And they explain to children that a person who is visually impaired is just like everybody else. We just do things in a slightly different way. So that was where the story of my writing began. And I don't know if you want to just stop there for a second and explore any of those a little bit further, or if we should go on to the other 2.
No, you can explore. Okay. Very interesting one.
The next book I wrote was a memoir. It's stories of things that I've learned to do since I became blind. So it's more of my story. It's aimed at a more adult audience. And it really was there to answer the questions that my friends and my colleagues had about how is it that I do the things I do? whether that is cooking, doing housework, applying makeup, using a computer, what else? It's about how I work with my guide dogs, how I travel. All of these things, I answered those stories and those questions in the book, and also include a lot of stories of the things that I've done since becoming blind. And that book is called A Different Way of Seeing, A Blind Woman's Journey of Living an Ordinary Life in an Extraordinary Way. And I'm just in process, in fact, of making that book available as an audio book as well, which is really exciting. So that one is out. It's available from my website. Well, all of them are available from my website or on Amazon. But yeah, that's a project that I've been working on for a number of years, and I'm really excited about that one. And then the final book is the story of my current guide dog, written from her perspective. And that's called Pause for Thought, Seeing the World Through the Eyes of a Guide Dog. And in that book, my guide dog, Fiji, talks about what the world is like for her working as a guide dog. Wow. And she shares a lot of stories and things like that. And there's lots of photos in there of her from when she was very young, right up to when we published the book, which was 6 months ago that one came out.
And how old is he or she?
She is almost 8 years old. She'll be 8 in August.
Wow.
So she's got probably another 2 years to work. And then I'll have to look at getting a new, much younger dog, which is always a tough experience, but it's not fair to make them work too long.
Yeah, I get that. And the other thing that I wanted to ask, my next question was going to be, how are you? Because I'm looking at you, you have makeup on, a beautiful lipstick. I wanted to ask you, how do you get things done?
Mostly, it's using my other senses to fill in the gaps that aren't there because I can't see.
Okay.
So just as an example with the makeup, I'm using a lot of the sense of touch. So if I'm holding a lipstick, I can feel where my lips are, and that then allows me to apply the lipstick or any makeup. It really is, when I'm cooking, I use the sense of smell, the sense of touch. It really is about using my other senses, my hearing, my sense of smell, my sense of taste, and the sense of touch to give me the information that most sighted people use through their eyes.
Sure. Okay. So after you had the news, how did you overcome this overwhelming news? Did you go for counseling? What has that changed your mindset? What did you do? What was your next step?
I was offered counseling. It's not an option that I took up. I didn't feel at the time that it was something that I needed. For me, I needed the time and space on my own to just think through things. And I know I was very fortunate because I have an incredibly strong support base with my family and my friends. I've always had the kind of mental approach that looks forwards. And I'm a very determined person, and I've always been drawn towards achieving things, achieving goals. So as long as I kept working towards things, and it kept me moving forwards, and that really helped me to make that adjustment. I'm not saying I didn't have bad days. I think we all have bad days.
Absolutely.
But it also is important to know what it is for each one of us that helps give us the support we need to help us through those bad days. And I was very fortunate that I had those resources both internally and from my support system.
Wow. Yeah, that's all I can say. Wow. You are doing very well for yourself. Sometimes even if you can see, I know that the sense of touch, you might have also the sense of smell. I love cooking. I love cooking a lot. So I hardly taste my food. So I know how my food tastes like by the smell. So most of the time when I cook, I rely on how my food smells more than how it tastes. Then I know that if my food smells like this, it will be delicious. Like also when I bake, I'm one person who doesn't use measurement. Like I know the dough by how I touch it with my hands, that that it's ready, or it's, like that's how I some of the things, those are the things that I have learned from my granny. You know how grannies will say, no, I don't have a recipe, I don't write those recipes, but I know that I know that you need to make 4 cups and this and this and that, and then they only, like, I will use my hand and then I will be able to say, no, my dough is ready. So most of the things that I do, I rely on the touch and also on the smell, especially when it comes to cooking. So it does work a lot. And when it comes to writing, earlier on, you spoke about a certain software, if I heard you correctly. And how do you, like you said, you're doing it on a laptop or, computer. So how do you do it? Do you listen? Do you type? Do you guys have a special keyboard that you use, or do you say the words that you want and then the software types? How does it work out?
Usually, well, there's a number of different options for those of us who are visually impaired. There are Braille computers with a Braille keyboard, if that's what people prefer. I'm not a big Braille user myself. So I use a standard laptop with just the normal keyboard. And as I type, the software says each letter to me. And as I finish the word and hit the space bar, it then says the word to me as well. I can set that up. I can change it. If I don't want to have it say the letter and the word, I can set it up however I want. I can select any number of voices. So if I want my computer to talk to me in a female voice or a male voice with different accents, and I've got all sorts of different options. I can affect the speed, how fast it speaks to me. So I mostly type using the keyboard. If I'm using my mobile phone, I use the dictate function a little bit more. But then I also know that I have to double check, because sometimes the dictate function hears different things from the things that I say. So I try to be aware of that and just check that all of the words are correct before I send a message. So, I'm using all the same programs that a sighted person would. I'm using WhatsApp. I'm using Facebook. I'm on Zoom, and I can access anything that I need to on Zoom. There really is, they call them screen readers, because they read what's on the screen. And the screen readers can really, I can do pretty much anything I want to on a computer or on a mobile phone because of the software that's available.
Awesome. That's good news. Oh, that's wonderful. And it's easy to use if that's how it functions. It functions.
Obviously, if there's you've got to learn how to use these things. It's like anything else, the first time you do something, it's going to be tough. But as soon as you learn and become more familiar with it, it becomes a lot easier. And now it's so simple for me. I just do the things I need to do. I don't even think about it.
I can tell, especially now that you wrote 6 books. I can tell that I can tell that you even enjoying to use the system. And out of your 6 books, which one is your favorite?
Ooh, the one that was the most fun to write was the most recent one, Pause for Thought.
Okay.
But I think the one that has had the most impact was A Different Way of Seeing. And that is the brand that I really work with, because everything that I do is about helping people to see their lives, their worlds a little bit differently. And through that, to deal with the overwhelm. So that brand has become central to the work that I do. My podcast is called A Different Way of Seeing. It's central to the branding of my website, which is being reworked at the moment. It's all branded around that core message of a different way of seeing.
Okay. And when it comes to your coaching practice, do you only work with people who are living with disability, or everyone is welcome?
Absolutely anyone is welcome. Anyone who is feeling a little bit overwhelmed, if they're trying to achieve a task and just don't know where to start, I can help them with that. And obviously, my focus tends to be in the professional speaking space, in the book writing space, and in the disability space. But I'm by no means limited, because the tools and techniques that I use in coaching with those clients can be applied to pretty much any situation. So I can definitely work in other areas as well.
Wow, that's good. That's great. And if we can have a look into 2020, looking into how COVID has affected a lot of people. So many families were overwhelmed with the numbers of death they're going through in the family. And what is your take in that? And how was it like for you during that time?
I think there's 2 very different questions there. And I think I do need to be quite clear that I am not trained in helping people overcome grief or to work through the grief cycle. It's a very specialized space to be. And I think that there are professionals who work in that area. And, if that is a situation that people are in, they really must ensure that they are working with someone who is able to help them in that space. The work that I do is far more task and action based, but I would recommend there that if people are needing that kind of help, that they find a professional, a therapist who can help them in that area. In terms of how COVID affected me personally, it's actually a really interesting story, because I've been based working from home for a number of years. I've been working online for a number of years. And I found that probably the biggest change in my life was that now I had to adapt to the fact that my husband was working from home as well. And that was just really a question of space and just becoming accustomed to that change. But I did find that I was able to continue much of the work that I was doing in much the same way that I was operating. And I realized, exactly how fortunate I was that was the case, because very few people were in that situation.
Yeah. And to be honest with you, it's so overwhelming working from home, because it was also hard for me to adjust with the kids. Like there was this one time I had a training and it was during school holidays. Whew, that day, like I was like, what exactly is happening in South Africa? Because now I can't deal with this. Like you will shout the whole day, call their names, guys, I'm busy working. They will say, okay, mommy. Then they will be quiet for 10 minutes. After 10 minutes, they will start again. And like we were never prepared. It's not like we had our home. Not all of us have home offices. We work from our bedrooms, and I'm telling you, it was something else. But at least these days, they are adjusting. They know that mommy's working. If you find the door closed, you must just respect her space and wait for her to come. Or they will send me a WhatsApp and say, mommy, maybe I'm looking for this or that. Whether I respond or not respond, but they now understand that mommy's not going anywhere. She will be doing a lot of this from home, and we just need to help her and support her by being quiet. But it's not easy. No matter how family meetings we have regarding the quietness and all that, I'm telling you, they will keep on doing something that will piss you off somehow. But yeah, I just made peace that I just made peace with it, that it's not easy, but we're doing it anyway. We just need to accept that this is what is happening now, because it's about a year now. I've been working online, like full-time online, and it was so hard for me. But now I had to adapt. I had to change my mindset, and I had to tell myself that, okay, this is my working space and I need to be relaxed and make sure that whoever comes on screen, they get the same energy that I want to give out. And yeah, ever since, I'm telling you, each and every session has its own challenges, but we're doing very well. And I believe when it came to you and your husband was home, like you said, it was a matter of space, because now it was your working space and your comfort zone. It was your comfort zone. This was not my comfort zone. I don't like working online, but now I'm falling in love with it. I don't like, because the energy is different, like working online and in-house, you will get different energy levels, because when you are in-house, you interact a lot with people. You can see when somebody's following you. You can see when somebody's lost. So when we're working online, they also distracted by other things that are happening in the background. So you are not even sure if they are with you or they lost you somewhere there. So that is the challenge that I had in the beginning. But so far, it's going very well. I'm happy with the progress, and I'm even happier that I'm here to stay.
That's great. And, I think the world of work has shifted as a result of COVID, because we are now in that space where a lot of people are working hybrid, where they're in the office sometimes and at home sometimes. Online has become a fairly standard way of working in many different situations. But also, I realized totally that the impact of COVID it depends on what industry you're in. Some industries have been able to adapt to working off-site a lot more quickly, but for people who are working in people-based careers, like training, like facilitation, I think that kind of in-person energy is very different. So yeah, it's been so interesting to see how the world has changed over the last 2 years.
Yeah, indeed, it is. It is. Guys, if you just joined us now, this is the Coaching Hour. I'm your host, Khensani Chauke, and we are with Coach Louise, and we're speaking about making sense of the overwhelmed. And she has overwhelmed us with her story, and she did overwhelm us with a lot of things tonight. I was when I first met her, and like I was so humbled. It's a journey that she got strength from, and it's a journey that made her and motivated her to help others, to show others that it's possible if you believe in yourself. It's possible if you are hungry for it. And she is one humble lady. I'm telling you, I'm just overwhelmed. I don't want to lie to you. There was a time where I became emotional, but I had to hold it to myself and say, you know what, if Coach can do this much work, and I have my both eyes, I have my both hands, and I still complain. And what does that say in front of God? So it's like I'm not appreciating what God has given me. I'm not appreciating who I am. And here is Coach. She's doing wonderful, wonderful work, and she's making sure that those who don't know how to do it, they get help from her. Yes, Coach. My next question was, where do you draw inspiration?
From everywhere, from the people I meet, from books that I read, from the things that I experience. I've got a very strong sense of curiosity about the world, and I see wonder in the world as well. And I think that while I'm able to view everything with this sense of curiosity and wonder, that's what gives me the inspiration to continue moving forwards, because there's just so much in the world to experience and to be and to do. And I don't think I'll ever grow tired of experiencing things. I consider life as an adventure, and it's there to be lived and experienced.
And what okay, my question will be, what success looks like to you? What is success to you?
Success to me is being able to help other people around me to live the lives that they want to live. And if that can be in small ways by helping people, if it can be in tiny ways like providing someone with a cup of coffee if they want it. Or, success it's not for me about money. It's about helping people to achieve what they want to achieve more than they believe possible, and to be involved in making the world a little bit more inclusive for others living with a disability, I guess, is also something that is a passion of mine. So all of those things wrapped up together, I think, are what I would consider success.
Wow. And if you were given a chance to become the president of South Africa, what is it that you would like to change or to add?
Oh, wow. Where does one start? There's so many things that I would like to see being changed, but I understand the complexity. I wish it were possible to increase our levels of employment, to increase our levels of education, to relieve poverty. And a lot of those are the types of things that I would like to see happening.
Yeah. Wow. Wow. And regarding your speaking and your coaching, what kind of programs do you offer?
I have a diversity of things that I offer in terms of my speaking. It really depends on what the clients that I'm working with are looking for. So in terms of speaking, I speak around disability topics, doing anything from informative talks, explaining how I accomplish tasks, the types of technology that are available to make people more productive in the workplace, with people with a disability. So there's a lot of different spaces that I work in that field. And that would depend on the specific needs of the clients and the corporates that I'm working with. And then on a more personal level, I work as an inspirational and transformational speaker. And that is using my own story, teaching people the tools and techniques that I use to adapt to change, to increase resilience, and of course, to help people make sense of their overwhelm that they're facing in their lives. Yeah. So I use my story to do that as well.
Wow. So now I wanted to ask you, what are your coaching models? What kind of models do you use? So you just answered me when you say you use your own story to be able to work around that. Am I correct?
I mean, again, I can draw on a number of different coaching models. I think one of the first ones that I ever learned was GROW, which is a fairly standard and simple model. But for me, it really depends on finding the process that will work with the specific client that I'm working with. Because it really depends on what they're needing. Sometimes if I'm working with someone who's recently been diagnosed with a disability, there may be more of a mentoring space rather than a coaching space. Because often it's about, I don't know where to turn. I don't know what is available. And I've got a lot of knowledge in that area that can help someone who's newly disabled, as well as their families and their support systems. Because often we don't think about the people surrounding them and what they're going through as well as a result of their diagnosis.
Yeah. Okay. And I know that your purpose is to help others overcome the challenges they face in their professional and personal lives, right? So do you have any, let's say, key elements to help us deal with situations that are overwhelming in our lives?
I think the simplest things for me to say are that, firstly, I think often the reason we feel overwhelmed is because the task we're facing, the challenge, just seems so big and so difficult to navigate. So my advice in a situation like that is to try and take a step back. And instead of trying to work out the whole solution right at the start, just try to figure out what the next step is that you need to take. Because sometimes once you've taken that first step, the next step, the second step, becomes clearer. And it really does make it easier to tackle that huge, overwhelming, scary task, just one step at a time. The other piece of advice that I would give is to, sometimes when we're feeling overwhelmed, we are confronted by this fear of, will I actually be able to do this? And if it's possible to turn that around and say, of course I will be able to do it. Now all I need to do is to figure out how to do it. And that helps to find that first step towards solving the problem. Because overwhelm is just about complexity. It's about this huge task, and we go round in our head seeing it gets bigger and bigger and more frightening and more difficult to cope with. And simply being able to take a step back and say, where do I start? I found is so often a good way to start navigating through those big, scary tasks.
Absolutely. It's not easy because some with us coaches and earlier on, I think it was earlier on, I was speaking to someone and I was like, she was asking me, Khensani, why did you decide to do coaching? And I was like, you know what, when I did my coaching, at first, my goal was to improve in my facilitation services, as I worked mostly with salespeople. So I wanted to do NLP so that I can improve NLP sales, and I did performance coaching and all that. But to my surprise, when I started like my first lesson in coaching, it was more of who I am. During the process, I had to discover who Khensani is, and it took me back to my early 20s, like the way I was full of life, my vision boards, what is it that I wanted to achieve in life, and I found it life-changing, and I've never stopped. After that, I discovered all the pieces of me that I've left in my life, like in every way, you know, and I'm telling you, like it became a transformation, like in all levels of myself, becoming mindful to apply more of EQ, emotional intelligence, and you know, there's a lot of things that changed, and I grew. And when I went to the corporate space with my coaching experience, and I mean coaching qualifications and all that, it changed the way I look at things in another level. I was more into how to handle other people. Why are they behaving this way? And you know, when you are working in that kind of environment, you always want to, not always, but some of us, we are there to make sure that other people's needs are met and we help them to reach their goals. You'll want to know and interact with them and engage and ask, okay, I know that now you are a supervisor, but what is your goal? What is it that you want to achieve in this company? And in the process, they're not only growing because of the positions that are there, but they also growing when it comes to their personal lives, because you are there as a coach to help them, to give them tools on how to handle their daily challenges that they meet, and not only from the office, but also from home. So it was so helpful, and it helped a lot of people that I've worked with, that I went and did coaching. But most of all, it changed who I am, how I look at things and how I do things, how I speak to people, how I think about people. It's no longer the same. Like, I became somebody that I needed in my life. And then I became that, so that I can close the gap to those who need somebody like me.
Yeah, that's so true.
Yeah.
And, you know, authenticity as a coach is so important. You can't be somebody other than yourself if you are truly in the moment, in the space with a client. And the other thing that I think that you mentioned there that is so important is, you know, the people we are at work are not separate from the people that we are at home. And if we're experiencing challenges at work, those don't stay at work. They come with us when we return home to our families. Similarly, any challenges we face in our personal lives, they come with us into our workspace. You can't see the two people as separate. It's just not possible.
Most definitely. And one thing I love about coaching is it deals with you. Like it deals with you emotionally, mentally, and physically. You cannot go and do coaching and remain the same person. There's no way, unless if you didn't know what you were looking for, you were not ready for it. So you decide if you want to change, and as soon as you make that decision and say to yourself that, you know what, I identify this gap in my life and I just want to make a change, and you take that serious about you and you enter that room, I'm telling you, you won't come out the same person, because it's going to deal with you. It will start with your mental capacity, how your abilities of thinking, your mindset, how you do things and how you look at things. And when it's done with that, your emotions, you're going to heal from wounds that you didn't know that they exist in you. And as soon as you go out, then you will be a complete person who understands who they are, what they want, because now you'll be helping others to discover and to see their full potential. So if you haven't met your full potential, it's going to be easy for you to help other people, because you still don't know who you are. You don't understand your purpose. You haven't discovered who you really are. So it was something that I needed to share with her, that it's like getting, okay, my son yesterday was asking me we spoke about deliverance, and he was like, I asked him what deliverance is, and he was like, okay, he made an example and say, deliverance is when, let's say you were sick and then a pastor prays for you and then you get healed. So it means that you were delivered from that sickness, and that sickness, it's not going to come back. But what made me to pay more attention, he said at the end and said, but for you to get that deliverance, you need to believe. You need to believe that you will be delivered. Because if you don't believe that you will be delivered, then it means you're not going to get that deliverance that you wanted. And that was an important point that he made, that at the end of the day, if you decide that, okay, I want Coach Lewis to coach me into my speaking journey, do you believe in her? Do you believe in who you want to become? Do you believe that you can be that speaker that you think of, that speaker that you dream of? You know, when you want to become something in life, you always dream about you when you are there, like standing there and doing it. So it visualize it in your mind. You visualize it when you're sleeping. Everywhere you go, you're thinking of all those things that you want to do. But do you believe that you can be that person? Do you really want to be that person? Because if you don't, then it's going to be hard for you to achieve that goal. So, Coach, you really made a very valid point there, that, you know what, it's us who take a step and stand firm by it and say, this is who I am and I want to achieve these goals. And we are going, to the end of our show. And do you want to, you can proceed from what you wanted to say, and when you're done, you can give us a quote of the day or quote of the night and tell us or motivate the viewers and the listeners.
Well, I think what I was going to say relates to the fact that no matter how good the coach is, if ultimately I can help my clients to unpack what they are wanting to achieve and some of the steps to get there, I can't do the work for them.
Absolutely.
And I think a lot of people kind of think that a coach will just I don't know, have a magic solution, then suddenly it's all changed. It doesn't work like that, unfortunately. And if, the first step is really to understand how important is it for you as the client to make that change and to become whatever it is that you want to be. A quote. My goodness, I don't really have any quotes that I work with because, I wouldn't know where to start. I suppose one that does spring to mind is, it's taken from a book. No, I can't remember, and I'd hate to misquote it, but it just was talking about the fact that, if we're measuring our journey in terms of miles and long distances, we should also take time to celebrate the baby steps, the tiny steps that take us to that bigger journey. And I suppose in a sense that comes back to the proverb that says that a journey of 1,000 miles starts with a single step. So there we go. That's the closest I can come to a quote, I'm afraid.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. It is a good quote. And thank you, Coach, for coming through. And where will our viewers and listeners find you?
Best place to find me is on my website, which is loisstrachan.com, LOISSTRACHAN. So loisstrachan.com. But I am on Facebook, I'm on YouTube, I'm on Twitter. No, not very much. And I'm on LinkedIn as well. So you'll find me on most of the social media platforms, just under my name.
Yeah. Okay, Coach. Thank you so much. I'm so humbled and grateful to have you tonight. And we did have an incredible time, and I've learned a lot from you, and I'm so glad that you came through. And guys, one thing that I want to say, like what we spoke about, healing takes time. You need to remember that. And deliverance also takes time, because you need to work. You understand, you work on it. And then transformation also takes time. You cannot attend one coaching session, and then boom, you have achieved your dreams, you have achieved things that you want to do. No, it's like when you want to be fit. If you want to be fit, you already have your body goals, that this is the kind of body I want. You work each and every day towards achieving that goal. So is coaching. As long you can attend 10 sessions, but if you don't use the tools and resources that are given to you, then you just wasted your own time, because transformation, it's more on what you believe you will achieve, what you believe you want to achieve in your life. So coaches are there to help you achieve all your goals, to coach you and show you that it's possible only if you want it, because they're not going to push you. They're not going to do the work for you. So from me, Khensani, thank you guys for tuning in tonight. I'll see you again next week, Tuesday. And thank you so much, Coach Louise, for coming through. And good night to you, everyone. And please don't forget to send all your comments and questions. I'll be able to answer them. And thank you so much for tuning in tonight. I love you guys. Have a good evening and take care of yourselves. Goodbye.